What's up, guys? This is TheKephas. Well, I'll give Blizzard one thing. They sure have monopolized all of my game time. First, they released these temporary buffs for WoW for leveling, both in retail and in Classic, and then the one in Classic led to the release of the Wrath Classic pre-patch, which led to the release of Wrath of the Lich King Classic, the most beloved expansion in all of WoW history, and I have to say it's living up to its reputation because that alone has taken up most of my gaming time, and I've been having a blast playing Wrath of the Lich King again. And then on top of that, a week after the release of Wrath of the Lich King, they released Overwatch 2, and they also brought back the leveling buff for WoW Retail, so there's two things. And obviously, you know, I've made no secret my feelings about Overwatch 2's monetization, and there have been some fairly glaring issues in Overwatch in terms of performance, actually getting into the game, and then actually getting a game when you're in the game. It's been a nightmare, but in spite of that, the game is actually really fun to play. It's still Overwatch. I mean, it's some changes, but I like most of how Overwatch 2 feels, and I've been enjoying myself. For the most part, you know, there are some, like I said, there are some issues, but I'm still playing it a lot. Myself, my wife, we play together every day. So there's WoW, there's Overwatch, and then 2 days after the release of Overwatch, Diablo 2 Resurrected moved into its next ladder season and brought in some new content, which is awesome for an old game to be getting new content updates, a game that's beloved, and honestly, the updates are great. So I've been wanting to get back into Diablo 2 again, so you've got 3 Blizzard games all having all this stuff going on at the same time, and I'm like, whoa, Blizzard, maybe slow down, bro. I'm stretched here, right? So I'm having all of my time taken up by all these Blizzard games, and then there are other games coming out. I mean, there's God of War Ragnarok, there's the next Pokemon's game that I want to get into, and there are other games that look really cool as well, but I just can't help being so wrapped up in what Blizzard's doing, because with all this stuff going on, we are just a couple of weeks away from the release of the Dragonflight pre-patch for Retail WoW, which is going to lead us into the release of Dragonflight next month. Blizzard, whoa, dude, maybe take a chill pill? I don't know. It's cool. I mean, I'd rather have a lot to do than nothing to do. You know what it's like when you're in the middle of a game drought? Well, if you like Blizzard games, you're not in the middle of a game drought. I sure as heck haven't been, and I'm pretty excited. And, you know, I guess, you know, aside from gushing for 2 minutes straight about all these awesome Blizzard games, you know, and in spite of, you know, how I feel about Blizzard themselves and how things may end up in the long term, I have to say the beginning of anything new Blizzard does is always going to be exciting, especially when the games work, right? Overwatch 2. But seriously though, it's exciting, and I am genuinely having fun with Blizzard games right now, and it's nice, it's refreshing, and I have to say, and I don't think it's because I'm experiencing a little bit of a Blizzard high right now with their games, but I have to say that I am feeling reasonably optimistic about Dragonflight, and I haven't felt optimistic about a WoW expansion since, man, I'd have to say Legion, but even then I think I was so burnt by Warlords that I really wasn't feeling Legion. I didn't know what to expect, but then once Legion got here, it was incredible, so, you know, I got excited pretty quickly, and I mean, I'm always into the beginning of a WoW expansion, but I generally think that I'm going to have a lot more fun in Dragonflight. I think it's going to be more fun than I have had in a while, so I just kind of wanted to share, you know, why I'm excited about Dragonflight, because as I said, you might think, well, maybe it's copium, you know, you're feeling the high of all this Blizzard stuff happening, and, you know, I could see where people might feel that way, but I was honestly feeling reasonably excited for Dragonflight before all this came along, and that's because, you know, I only pay attention a little bit. You know, I maybe watch a Bellular game here and there, maybe see a few other videos, see what people are saying about, you know, what's coming. You know, there are plenty of videos out there. I stay away from a lot of it. I don't like to keep my finger on the pulse. There are people that do a better job of that. So if you're looking for an informative video, you know, this is not the video for you. This is just some random guy on YouTube's opinion about a game, right? So, and I may not even be fully informed, so I do apologize. But, you know, when I look at Dragonflight, you know, I want to stay pragmatic, and I want to try to keep my expectations realistic here. You know what I mean? But at the same time, I feel like we're finally moving into a new age for WoW. I think we're moving into the end of the borrowed power system, right? And I think that's the first thing that sets Dragonflight up for more success. believe it or not, sometimes removing something from a game is actually an improvement. Again, going back to Overwatch, I remember when they removed Horizon and when they removed Paris from the map pool, and that made the game better. Just like they removed 2CP in Overwatch 2, and that made the game better. So sometimes actually removing stuff that isn't very good is a good thing. And I think that might leave some people wondering, well, what is there going to be in its place? And there might be some people that maybe feel like there isn't much to do. And I want to talk about that a little bit, I guess, because, you know, when I look at Dragonflight as a whole, both in content and also in, you know, what I'm expecting, I'm getting a big Mists of Pandaria vibe. I feel like we're going back to an era similar to Cataclysm and Mists of Pandaria. You know, when you look at the history of WoW, right, and you've got the first 3 expansions, which were the classic era, and then you have the last 3 expansions, which were the borrowed power era. Those 3 expansions in the middle, you know, with, you know, Cataclysm, Mists of Pandaria, and then Warlords, they were sort of like an experimental or transitional era where they're trying to figure out what to do with the game. Where, you know, we're sort of modernizing it, we're streamlining it. What does in-game need to keep people interested, right? And I think that was what really held back Cataclysm, because they focused so much on the leveling. And then even in Mists, I mean, Mists of Pandaria was an incredible expansion. They did do some cool things like with Timeless Isle and, you know, Isle of Thunder, you know, so there was some fun stuff there. But overall, I feel like people might forget this, but there was a general feeling of, aside from dungeons and raids, there wasn't much to do at endgame. And so that's what led to the Garrison, which failed immediately, and then they got into Legion, where they did the borrowed power system, the first one with the artifact weapon, and that was like a grand slam. Okay, and I think that led them to think, well, we need to replicate this in future expansions. And so they tried in BFA, and then they tried again in Shadowlands, and it failed both times. So it just goes to show you that, you know, sometimes you have a good idea, that doesn't mean you should do that same thing next time. You know, sometimes you should, sometimes you shouldn't, but it doesn't always translate well. And I think one of the worst things about having that system, the borrowed power, is, you know, you're releasing expansions where what you're adding into the game is being taken away at the end of the expansion, and then you're moving on to the next one, where I like to think that an expansion should build on the game. I mean, yeah, you might move on from the content in terms of the story and the zones, and those might be something you do in passing now, but whatever else you add to the game, it would be ideal if that were something that the game kept. You know, the game kept moving forward. It was some way that something that was added to the experience, you know, and I think that that's something that I wish Blizzard would think about when they add new systems into the game. And what I'm seeing with Dragonflight in terms of new systems, I feel like that's what they're doing here. Because first you have dragon riding, and I sincerely hope that this isn't something that comes in Dragonflight and then goes away afterwards. I think that, you know, they can continue to maybe even add more mounts that do similar things. Maybe they can add underwater mounts, and I know people don't like the idea, but maybe have some zones that have underwater parts or even underwater zones. Maybe they can have other mounts that do other things like climb up walls, and maybe there's some underground zones. You know, there are different things, or mounts that can do different things. You know what I mean? I don't know how you can do that, but maybe they do something like that, and then we can have these mounts usable in all the world. And so now you have the game, you know, having these awesome mounts that you can participate in everywhere. Maybe this will sort of redesign how mounts work. I don't know, but that's something they could do. The worst thing they could do is add in this, you know, dragon riding system and then just take it away at the end of the expansion. That would suck. But overall, I'm excited about dragon riding. And then you look at, you know, the other system, the work order system for professions. I think this is a great way to revolutionize how professions work, because the way I understand it is it's almost like a second auction house, but for profession users, where you can submit work orders and other people can fill them, and you can get the gear you want from professions. You can provide resources, give money, and then of course if you have that profession, you can take in work orders and make money. So it adds a lot of gameplay for everybody, and I think that's great. I think that those systems can be expanded upon, and not only can they be great for Dragonflight, but they could also be great for expansions after Dragonflight. And then if something feels like it's getting long in the tooth and maybe it's not as exciting, then you can move on to something else. But generally speaking, you know, when I look at games like Final Fantasy, they add in these new systems. I mean, they just added in island sanctuaries, in the new patch for Final Fantasy, and it's like that's something that people are going to participate in long after Endwalker is gone, and so I think that's what expansions should do, is they should add to the game, not just replace something or be a temporary addition, you know what I mean? So I think that what they're doing with Dragonflight, it has the potential for that, and I think that I will be very disappointed if what they're adding doesn't stay, unless what they're adding just doesn't work out very well. But from what I've seen, it looks like it's working out pretty well. And I think one thing that people should remember here, there are obviously some issues, there are some exploits. I think with dragon riding, people are finding ways to abuse it. Some people, it's not even that big a deal, but I think people should always remember that you should never let perfection get in the way of greatness. And I'm not saying that these systems are great, but they might be. I mean, I haven't really got my hands on them yet, but I think one thing I wish is that Blizzard would just let people use dragon riding everywhere. I think that's one of those Blizzard things where Blizzard does a thing because they're Blizzard and they overthink things sometimes. But, then again, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they know better in this situation. I don't see why they would do that. I really don't, but yeah, it is what it is. But overall, I think those two systems are great, and I'm interested to see what else they're going to add, throughout the expansion, because I think that it's good that we're kind of getting back to you're going to level up your character, and then you're going to, progress in gear. You're going to do easier content to work yourself up to harder content, and you're going to have dungeons, raids, mythic dungeons to get gear. There are tier sets coming back, and I think that's all WoW really needs to be for progression, in my opinion. I don't think there needs to be some battle pass system like with Shadowlands Renown. I don't think there needs to be some borrowed power system. I don't like any of those things. I think that just old school WoW will go a long way. It's working in Wrath Classic really well right now. I actually kind of wish they'd bring the badge system from Wrath Classic back and bring that in the retail for people that are more casual. But overall, I think that's good. I still think, though, that they need to think about other things they can add to the game for people that don't want to raid. I mean, outdoor content, that sort of like, I guess, other types of progression that maybe aren't related entirely to borrowed power. I think dragon riding is good, and I think the profession system is good. I think that will help in a lot of ways, but I'm hoping that they will continue to add more things as the expansion goes on. Another thing that I think Blizzard needs to think about maybe changing their mindset on is, you always leave everything for the release, right? And that's what you get for the whole expansion. Again, looking at a game like Final Fantasy and other MMOs as well, they add big content to patches too. I mean, you're getting monthly subscription fees here, right? You're getting paid. You don't have to put everything in the box, okay? And sometimes they do release good patches. I mean, Mechagon was a good patch. Timeless Isle was a good patch. I mean, there have been a lot of awesome patches. Ulduar came in later for Wrath back in the day. Isle of Qualdanos was the final patch. I mean, they do sometimes add in good patches, but I feel like a lot of times they save their big hitters for the actual release itself. And so I kind of hope that maybe they can add more in as the expansion goes on, But overall, I think that what I'm seeing here in terms of content, it looks good. And in terms of like just what's happening with dragons, I mean, who doesn't love dragons? It's nice to finally get to go to the Dragon Isles. Again, this is where I kind of get that Mists of Pandaria vibe. It's like, you're going into a new mysterious, part of the world that's, sort of, I guess, uninhabited, but, kind of not, I guess. I don't know. But you're going into this place. It's got a lot of cool, vibrant colors. There's a lot of lore surrounding dragons and stuff that we don't know. There's I've heard the name Galrakis. No, I'm sorry, not Galrakis, Galakrond come up, and that's where we're headed. I'm very excited because what a legend that is. Okay, so I'm very excited that that's the case. But I am interested to see here what's the story with dragons. Where are they going to go with it? I mean, looking at the quality of the writing, probably since Legion. I mean, I like to think as Legion as being the end of the original WoW storyline. I mean, we wrapped up so much already. Illidan sort of becomes the jailer for Sargeras, and in my mind, I like to think that's the end of the original WoW story that I love so much before it gets a little tarnished with the writing after that. So I digress, but maybe I'll be surprised in Dragonflight. Maybe they will do better. And I've heard some of it looks pretty good. I've also seen some things that don't look so good. I think one thing that would help their case is that they stop with this retconning everything, and also stop with like this taking out characters to bring other characters in. It seems like they do that a lot. You know, they take away characters that people like and people want to learn more about to bring other characters back in that maybe people have had enough of. That seems like what's going on. But again, if the story ends up being good, cool. If it doesn't, I don't care anymore, right? I'm not hanging on for that anymore. They've kind of lost me on that, but I will still, you know, passively see what happens. And you know, when you have that mentality, like where you're more pragmatic, when you're being more cautiously optimistic or trying to be more reasonable, you know, your expectations are a little bit lower. Sometimes that works out in the game's favor, because then the game goes above your expectations. If you go into it with these crazy high expectations and then it doesn't meet them, then it feels bad. But if you go into it with sometimes lower, more realistic expectations, then it might surprise you. You know, the worst case scenario is when you go into it with, you know, lower expectations and then it still doesn't meet those expectations. So sometimes that can happen, but I don't think that's what's going to happen with Dragonflight. So I generally feel pretty positive about it. Of course, you know, there are some more changes to leveling. Leveling is going to be even faster. You know, they're going to bring Shadowlands into the Chromie time, which is cool. If you want to go back there, if you don't have to. So they're basically giving you the options of pretending like Shadowlands never happened, which is probably the best idea, because yeah, it's Shadowlands and it should have never happened. But I do like the new talent trees. That's something else I wanted to talk about. You know, when I first looked at these new talent trees, I was a little bit concerned, because I was like, man, I feel like I'm just rebuilding the character that I had before. And I think that is partially true. You know, I think these new trees were kind of built in a way to make leveling more fun. And that's fine, you know, because I think they do make leveling more fun. I think they add a sense of progression and give you a lot more to work towards and look forward to in leveling, which I think leveling has missed out on for a long time now. I have never liked the kits that they gave us with those other, I guess they were called talent trees, you know, where it's kind of like Diablo, where you could switch things in and out. I never liked that other system they had. I think it was from Cataclysm on. I was never a fan of that. I like talent trees. I think they make the game more interesting. And, you know, it looks like in this one, like there are build options. I mean, I think that's cool. I think that having build options is a good idea. I think they could do a lot more to make builds feel different and feel unique. And I think that as long as players remember that it's not always about min-maxing, you know, because I feel like players sometimes use that logic to invalidate talent trees and invalidate different builds. And I think that's what damages the game. For a lot of people, obviously there's always going to be a meta, but that doesn't mean that there aren't other options. You don't always have to play meta if you just want to have fun. If you're not looking to clear it as fast as possible or whatever, you can still do other things and still do fine. I would personally rather have more fun playing the spec that I want to play versus just chasing the meta all the time. It just doesn't interest me personally. Now, other people that do, that's fine, but I think that sometimes people do optimize the fun out of the game. And I think that, you know, when I look back at WoW, there have always been periods of time where they added in these unique build ideas and then they get forgotten about later. Like, you know, I think of the Gladiator Warrior, which I know not everybody liked it, but being a sword and board DPS, I thought was fun. That was something fun back in Wrath. And I remember the Necroblight Death Knight. That's another one. So, you know, these trees provide the opportunity to do some unique stuff for new build ideas, and I hope that it works out that way. And there also seem to be some pretty fun new additions in these trees, and so I hope that they can sort of expand on them in the future. Again, this is another one of those systems where, you know, it doesn't seem like it's going to go away at the end of Dragonflight, and it's something that they can expand on, and I think that's great. So, you know, it looks like we're moving into a new era. We're moving into new storylines, which are good. Stop butchering the old stuff, please. If you're gonna butcher anything, write some new stuff and, you know, butcher that. Maybe stop retconning so much. That would also be nice too. But whatever. You know, I like that we're moving into a new continent. You know, we're getting into some new stuff. Playing an Evoker and a Drakthir, that's gonna be awesome. You know, I get why they're kind of doing the combo with the race and the class. But personally, I kind of wish I hope they don't keep doing that, because I wouldn't mind having other races be able to be evokers. Maybe they channel the aspects power somehow. You don't have to be a dragon to do that. And I also wouldn't mind being able to be like a Drakthir warrior or a Drakthir paladin. You know, why not? You know what I mean? So I don't like that they limit things. I think that other MMOs get away with that, but that's part of what makes WoW special. You know, a lot of times you'll hear people say stuff like that, like, well, other MMOs do it, or other games do it, so why is it bad when Blizzard does it? It's because, well, Blizzard has always been, you know, a step above or a grade higher than a lot of other games, and a lot of that, you know, extra mile stuff is what makes Blizzard games set apart. When they start doing what everybody else does, that's when other games might outshine them. You get what I'm saying? So it's not a big deal. It's fine. Evoker, Drakthir, it's going to be fun to make one and play one. I hope that's not, you know, a trend for the future. It'd be like if they had released the Pandaren and they could only be monks and only monks could be Pandaren. That would have sucked, because monks being able to be a lot of other races is awesome, and seeing Pandaren being other classes is also great. So yeah, I hope that doesn't become the trend, but it's okay here. But yeah, future classes, please don't keep doing that. You know, so... but yeah, otherwise, I mean, I think that's pretty much it. I mean, I'm excited. It's a new WoW expansion. I think that, you know, it could be fun. It could be more rewarding. It could be more fulfilling. It doesn't have to be a game that holds your attention for 2 years straight. And I think that if they sort of move into a mindset where, hey, you know what, play for a while. If you get bored, you want to go take a break, we're going to have some new content here in a few months. You can come back. That's fine. Again, look at all this stuff Blizzard is doing right now. There is plenty of Blizzard content out there to participate in. I don't think that they have to have systems that keep you logging in every single day. I think that I'd rather have something fun to do that I only want to do maybe for a few months at a time and then take a couple months off and come back. I'd rather do that. I would much rather have a game like that than have one that makes me feel like I have to be there every day. Games should make you want to play them, not make you feel like you have to play them. So all in all, you guys, I know I kind of gushed. This has been just me talking, just things off the top of my head that I think about Dragonflight, and I'm relatively, I mean, I'm pretty excited. I have good feelings about this one. We'll see if it works out. If it doesn't, I've got Wrath Classic, right? So it's all good, and there's also other games. So you know what? I'm excited. I hope to see you guys in Dragonflight, and I'll look into making new videos. Hey, if it's really fun and I really get into it, maybe I'd like to get back to making guides again. So yeah, I'm hoping for the best here, you guys. So I'm rooting. I want to say it. I'm rooting for WoW, and I'm hoping that it works out. You know what I mean? So thank you guys so much for watching this video. It feels good to be positive for a change. You know, even if it's a little bit reserved, it still feels pretty darn good. So I'm excited. But thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys on the next one. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, let me know by clicking that like button. And feel free to share it with your friends so they can enjoy it as well. And if you'd like to see more videos, you can subscribe to the channel and click on the bell icon to be notified as soon as new videos are posted. You can also follow me on Facebook, and if you'd like, you can support my work on Patreon. Links to all that stuff can be found in the description below. This is TheKephas. Until next time.